Good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's joining us from across the world. Welcome to the World Sustainable Development Summit and to this very special presentation on international conversations towards systematic transformations for achieving climate justice. My name is Kartikey Sharma. I'm a research associate here at the Energy and Resources Institute, and we will be debilitating on this excellent topic. And we have some fantastic speakers and youth leaders with us who will give their perspectives. Without further ado, I would like to invite His Excellency, Mr. Ugo Astuto, the Ambassador of the European Union to India and Bhutan, for the opening remarks. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it's a great pleasure to be here with you all. Let me recognize my colleague, the Ambassador of Italy. It's good to be among friends. It's a pleasure. It's a particular pleasure to participate to open this session, where young people we will discuss the topical issue of climate justice. I think I state the obvious by saying that the youth is a major stakeholder in the fight against climate change and biodiversity loss. Let me also recall here another initiative that has the same objectives of the one we are participating today, the European Climate Pact, which provides a space for people across all walks of life to connect and to develop climate solutions, be they big or small. And today we have an ambassador of the European Climate Pact among us. Let me salute. We all realize that addressing climate change requires more than the regular government-to-government high-level climate negotiations. COP26 by itself did not solve the climate crisis, as we all know, but it did keep the objectives of the Paris Agreement within reach, which is an important achievement. At Glasgow, we set ourselves three major objectives. One, to ensure global emissions cut that keep global warming well below 2 degrees, while aiming for 1.5. Two, to close the gap of the 100 billion climate finance goal, while ramping up support for adaptation. And three, to complete the Paris rulebook, so that we can keep track of the progress and we can hold countries to account on that progress. And I believe it's fair to say that on all these three accounts, Glasgow has achieved progress. I'm sure you will argue this is not enough, and I'm afraid you are right. There is indeed a lot of work still to be done. A lot of work to keep global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius. We are not yet there. We need to implement the promises made in Glasgow as rapidly as possible, including when it comes to financing, to international finance. And we need to continue to work with our international partners, aiming high, having a high level of ambition. We see, on the positive side, we see that the transition is happening. Countries still planning huge investment in fossil fuels. They are starting to realize that there are huge risks of ending up with expensive stranded assets. The clean energy transition can also be an economic opportunity, besides improving air quality and lowering import dependency. It's clear that no country can tackle alone the climate challenge or biodiversity loss. And I'm glad to say that the European Union is working closely with India, specifically in the area of energy efficiency, of renewables, of sustainable finance, and climate mitigation and adaptation. We both, the European Union and India, we have set for ourselves very ambitious renewable energy targets for the next 10 years. And we shall demonstrate that strong government goals can drive innovation, in our economies and can contribute to reaching the Paris Agreement goals. More than anyone else, the youth, will be affected by the impact of climate change. So it's important that the youth also has the opportunity to speak up and to act as a constant spur to action. We need to be ambitious, we need to take action now for the sake of the future of the planet, for our own future as a species. And the title of today is, I think, is well chosen. We definitely need intergenerational conversations. We need a systematic transformation and a change of paradigm in our economic models. It's a challenge, but I think it's clear to all that the cost of inaction is even higher. Thank you all, and have a good day of discussion.
Thank you, Ambassador. I would now like to invite His Excellency, Mr. Vincenzo De Luca, the Ambassador of Italy to India. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm glad to open the Youth Plenary in the context of World Sustainable Development Summit 2022 towards a resilient planet. Last year, we launched for the first time a session dedicated to youth in light of the Italian engagement on young participation in the climate agenda in the COP26, and thanks to the drive of the delegation of the European Union here in India, ultimately represented here by a dear colleague of mine, Ambassador Ugo Astuto. In Milan, some of the participants attended the Youth Climate Summit. We try to give an opportunity to young generation from all over the world to raise their voices. Of course, there are very well-known faces in the fight against climate change movement, like Greta Thunberg or Vanessa Nakate that is here, or Ridhima Padai, but there are 100,000 millions of young generation of young people who want to associate their voice and their commitment to fight against climate change. Because in Milan, we had 400 young people from 189 countries. The fact that the young generation take part of the negotiation, of the process, is very important, because it's sure that, first of all, commitment is from the government. Government has to take action, have to set targets. We hope that targets will be more and more stringent, more and more close. But after government, there is a responsibility of civil society. Young generation is the pillar of civil society all over the world. And if it's true that there is a government responsibility, a social responsibility, there is also an individual responsibility in fighting against climate change. And if you want to join all these commitments, we need to raise awareness all over the world. Because also in the economic sector, of course, there are targets established by the government. There is also a reason of competitiveness of companies. Companies more competitive are companies more sustainable. But it's also true that we have to influence consumption. We have to influence the way we consume, the way we live, the way we use our resources. And this is the importance of the young generation participation to the process. Students, young people, and we want to encourage, we want to promote, we want to have dialogue. Also, the possibility that young people from all over the world have an opportunity, have a scene where they can discuss each other, and they can discuss with the governments that are ultimately responsible for the climate change policy, is a very important step in the process of environment protection. I can tell you that Italy, now I'm proud to tell you that this year Italy has chosen the permanent path of sustainability, incorporating environmental protection in our constitution. That means it's not a policy of a government, it's a policy of a government, it's a policy of a state, it's a policy of a people. That's important, that we want to try to, important result we want to achieve all over the world, and I hope also this summit can contribute. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for pointing out the fact that we need to focus on sustainable consumption and production, and the work that the wonderful country of Italy is doing. I would now like to invite Dr. Livleen Kahlon, Senior Fellow at the Energy and Resources Institute. She will now be the moderator for the session. and we will hear some excellent youth perspectives. Livleen, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Kartikey. Thank you, His Excellency Mr. Ugo Astuto. Thank you, His Excellency Mr. Vincenzo De Luca. Always a pleasure to be connected with such eminent dignitaries who have stayed committed to the cause of youth and climate change for a long period of time now. I will come straight to the topic of today's discussion, which is the Youth Plenary and under the theme of intergenerational conversations towards systemic transformation for achieving climate justice. What bigger a tribute could be to the cause of youth when we have with us youth representing themselves, representing their thought, representing the viewpoint of what they feel about climate change. And yes, it is very important that the world needs to stay connected and the generations have to stay connected too. Most of the time, we work in silos. We create our own working groups with people with whom we are comfortable because we get the same vibes, we are from the same era, and we think alike. The first step towards any change is to break these shackles, mingle with people, understand what they are talking about, put forward your viewpoint, and then come to a collective action. Because, mind us, problems don't come in silos. When there is a problem, it impacts the entire globe. And when, therefore, the solutions are looked at, they have to be connected. And I congratulate the organizers of WSDS for coming up with this novel. uh, Without much ado, may I welcome our eminent youth speakers. We have with us Ms. Vanessa Nakate, who is a climate activist from Uganda. We have Ms. Laura de Vries from the European Climate Pact Ambassador in Netherlands. We have Ms. Ridhima Pandey, climate activist from India. And we have Mr. Arun Krishnamurti, founder, Environmentalist Foundation of India. So, a warm welcome to all of you. And for the benefit of our audience, let me tell you the flow of the next 15-20 minutes. We will give the floor to each of our participants to put forward their viewpoint on the topic. And after that, we will put in some common questions, concerns to all of them. And let's get into more conversation mode. And looking at the questions that come up on the chat box, we will connect our audience to the speakers and then move forward to the next part of the session, which is recognitions and awards to youth who have made a difference. So, with this, a pleasure to welcome Miss Vanessa Nakate from Uganda. Vanessa, the floor is yours. Please tell us what you feel about the concept of climate justice. Please tell us how it is approached and how solutions are found out within your networks so that we are able to learn from what you are doing best. Welcome to you, Vanessa.
So much. Thank you, everyone. I'm happy to be here and to speak with all the incredible youth activists here, and I honor and appreciate the work that you're all doing. My name is Vanessa Nakate. I am a climate justice activist from Kampala in Uganda, and this is a country that has one of the fastest changing climates in the world. And we've seen, the different climate disasters unfold in different parts of the country, from floods to landslides to droughts, and affecting so many people's lives. And yesterday I was watching the news and they were talking about a certain region in Kasanda and the sides of Entebbe where the heavy rainfall destroyed schools and homes and people's farms and animals, and people were left with nothing, and they were having a cry out for help, for their communities, for food, for water. And this is not just happening in Uganda, this is happening across, the African continent, across the global south. We are seeing, the climate disasters affect so many people in some of the worst ways possible. We've seen the recent flooding in Brazil that left over 78 people dead and many people's property, houses destroyed. We saw Tropical Storm Anna in Southern Africa that affected so many people and led to the death of so many people. And literally 2 weeks later, we saw Cyclone Batsirai affect Madagascar and leaving so many people affected. So there is no, it's evident that the climate crisis is already happening, but it's also evident that youth activists, young people from different parts of the world are not silent. It's evident that they're rising up and demanding for a future that is sustainable, a future that is livable and equitable for all of us. But as young people, as we organize, in our specific countries, be it the different projects that we do, be it the strikes that we do, we cannot do this by ourselves. Many times, young people have been given the responsibility to make this world a better place. But I always say we've done our part. We've also always been asked questions like, what else should young people do after the COP26? What else should young people do? What new methods should they use? And I think that, young people have done everything. We have done everything that we can. And the right questions should be directed to the leaders. Or the right question to ask us would be, what will it take? What will it take for leaders to listen? And our answer is always the same: political will. Because the resources are there to address the climate crisis. We have everything needed to address the climate crisis. But if there is no political will from leaders and governments, then we can't have climate justice. We had COP26 in Glasgow a few months ago, and we saw, the government of the UK consign call to history with other countries. But a few weeks later, we saw Boris Johnson, massively give permission to massively expand a coal mine in Wales. And we've seen, the UK open up, give permission or green light for a new oil and gas field in the North Sea and considering 6 more developments. We've seen the EU consider, natural gas sustainable and allowing investments that could go into clean energy to go into dirty gas. We know that we can't eat coal, we can't drink oil, and we can't breathe, so-called natural gas. So as young people, we've done our part, but what are the leaders doing? How many times are we going to attend conferences, attend events, and talk about the same things? So it will take political will. And when it comes to, the intergenerational kind of conversation, I feel like in that conversation, it is the young people doing their part, but what are the older generation doing? We need them to advance climate justice, to advance climate action in our communities. And to me, what climate justice really is, it's not just about solar panels, it's not just about tree planting campaigns. Climate justice is about the people and the planet. The same way climate change is more than statistics and data points and net zero targets. It's about the people, because we move beyond the statistics of what's happening to what is actually affecting people's lives. So even when it comes to climate justice, it should be beyond installation of solar or tree planting campaigns. It has to have the heart of the people within the solution. If we are talking about tree planting campaigns, do these campaigns mean that indigenous communities are going to lose their land? If they are, then that is not climate justice. If we are talking about advancement of electric vehicles, if electric vehicles are going to lead to more, violence and child labor in countries where the minerals for these vehicles are mined, then that is not climate justice, because it means a small group of people is benefiting from, from the electric vehicles, while another group of people is suffering because of the same solution. So to me, climate justice should have the heart of the people. and should have like community involved. You cannot just carry, a climate solution to a community without involving the leaders or the elders or the chiefs in those communities. That is needed for climate justice, because those people know the solutions that they need. But many times we see solutions being suggested, but not all these solutions work for our communities. So it's important to have not just the intergenerational kind of conversation whereby everyone does their part, and like I've said, the young people are already doing their part, but even the leaders to do their part, in advancing climate justice. And if it's climate justice, it has to include the heart of the people. And we always have to ask ourselves, if we are proposing this solution for this community, who is benefiting from it? Who is getting harmed by it? Because even with solar, you find that, the people who are providing that solar, they're providing it in communities that can't even afford the solar because it's expensive. I've read articles that talk about, solar plants being constructed and installed in communities, but then the people who live near those solar installations, they don't even have electricity. They don't benefit from it. That is for a few privileged people. So climate justice should have the heart of the people. It should include everyone, and climate justice is also listening to the voices of those from the most affected areas, because it's important to listen to every story, to listen to every experience, to listen to every voice. People need to know that every activist has a story to tell, and every story has a solution to give, and every solution has a life to change. So climate justice is possible. Another world is possible. It is necessary, but it will only be possible, and we can only achieve it if we have a real intergenerational conversation where everyone does their part, and we have climate justice that isn't just about these technologies, but also has the heart of the people and communities on the ground. Thank you.
Vanessa, that is really wonderful. If I can use the word wonderful to congratulate on what message you have brought forward. I see a vibe of equity in what you say. I see a vibe of connectedness, and also I hear about how we need to connect. And when we say connect, we is it as a style that we have chosen this word intergenerational, or does it have more value? So connections have to be uh, intra and intergenerational. So even when you speak as youth, I see millions following you, and this type of peer-to-peer cascading effect is going to make a difference. So we need, as we are grouping together to find a global solution, youth and communities from across the globe needs to get connected to find solutions. And I thank you so much for being present with us today, because from here I see a new step of connection amongst different countries and groups for bringing forward these concepts. I will stay connected with you, but now I would like to request Ms. Laura to come up as the next speaker and put forward her points about climate justice and how youth need to stay connected with each other. Thank you so much.
You and Vanessa, thank you for your very inspiring speech. I sincerely believe that systemic change can only be achieved when we as humankind come together. If we really want to achieve our sustainability goals, we really have to change our mindset, because it is simply not a problem we can solve alone. If one country does really well and others do not, for example, because they do not have the means, the first country will still be affected by climate change. Therefore, it is crucial that we work together with each other as countries across borders, but also as companies, governments, and citizens. Also, I really feel like the root cause of our problems are a lack of long-term thinking and empathy with each other. Because in my opinion, we sometimes forget that we are one species, humankind, and therefore can't be satisfied when there are humans across borders that are in a situation of distress, and can't be happy when the need of the one is at the expense of the other. And therefore it is crucial that we have more sharing, more talking, more connecting as humanity. For me, climate justice is about 4 aspects. Firstly, generational justice. As youngsters, we are the generation that will have to live with the consequences of climate change. That is why it's only logical that we can participate in this discussion about the action that is being taken. After all, today's choices determine the world of tomorrow. It also goes for policy. We simply do not have the time to fail regarding climate action. And therefore, it is really important that also in policy, generational justice is taken in account. That is why I even find the generational test on policy really important, because where policy is tested on long-term effects and suitability for the future, we make sure that policy does not have negative side effects for future generations. And therefore, and also does not have to change in a few years because it doesn't fit the future. Secondly, justice across borders, because countries really have to make sure that that they see themselves as one humanity and work together, share knowledge, because we really have to do it together with each other. We can't do it alone. Also, thirdly, justice within your country, because we really also have to take each other in account. So the companies have to take in account the citizens, and the citizens have to take in account the workers and the companies, and so on. And we really have to take each other in account and hold each other accountable also. That goes for the government, companies, and for civilians. And lastly, inclusion, because we really have to make sure that anybody can contribute to and feels involved with climate transition and sustainability transition. Such as persons from rural areas and cities, people with less money and people with more money, white people, people of color, men and women. Because it's crucial that everybody can take part, because if they can't, we really have a problem with each other, because we have to do with each other. We need everyone. We need everyone's knowledge. We need everyone's involvement. It is so crucial that we do this together and have empathy with each other and learn from each other. And we really, as humankind, can't allow ourselves to not be connected in solving this issue. So I really want to stress the importance of working together as humankind. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. That was really inspiring. And here we have another new word introduced, inclusion. Both inclusion and respect for diversity are, I would say, parallel paths. So we cannot allow one to overshadow the other, but we need to maintain a balance between them. So it is really heartening when you speak about finding solutions and then including communities and representatives from all over. So after what Vanessa said and we moved on to Laura, I I am seeing a global connectedness to this entire problem, and I also see a chance for a new solution to arise from all this. So please hold on, Laura. We'll get back to you, and thank you so much for your inspiring words. Ridhima Pandey, Miss Ridhima Pandey, may I invite you now to express your viewpoint on this intergenerational conversation, climate justice. Over to you, Ridhima.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. It's a pleasure. And I can say, I mean, I've been listening to Vanessa and listening to Laura as well. It was really kind of like, it feels like that people say this a lot to me. I don't know if it's something everyone experiences, but people are like, all the youth leaders, kind of like, all the activists kind of say the same thing, We don't have, different speeches of, I mean, our speeches at the end seems to be very similar, but I feel like it is because what we talk about is the real challenge. Talking about all the voices being heard. It is really important, and talking about indigenous communities, talking about our struggles, talking about how kids are getting affected, talking about why people expect us as youths to bring up the change. I've heard this thing a lot that okay, we want kids like you, to come up. We want more kids like you. and you guys are gonna shape the future and stuff like that. But I feel like, it's kind of good that you're appreciating us, but at the same time, no one thinks of that, why the youth in the first place, are leaving their schools, are, skipping their times from studying and coming up, being an activist, fighting against, maybe government policies or fighting for their rights in the first place. They have their rights and it should be given to them without, all these struggles. So I just feel like, all these comments doesn't really matter to us. And I mean, at the same time, people, I feel like from my perspective, people are not that aware, because recently I was reading about this arsenic pollution in India, which affects approximately 230 million people, which is a lot. But to be honest, I myself didn't knew about it quite back then. It's just been a few weeks that I've known about that. So I feel like, it is important for everyone to understand this thing, that, people expect a lot from us. As Vanessa said, there are a lot of expectations from us, but no one tends to be, no one tends to have these same expectations from the governments itself, or no one seems to be, asking governments the questions that they, have been asking us in, for instance. And I believe that, it is really, as Laura said, it is really important for all of us to come together, because at the very end, for me, I feel like, we have to create this ideal world where, kids don't have to, go through what we guys have been going through today. They don't have to skip their schools, or, strike out for to protect their rights, or, just, the kids doesn't have to come out to make the older generation understand that, we are not the only ones living on this planet, and, we need the environment, we need this whole ecosystem to survive. So I feel like all these things are really important, and at the very same time, no one alone can't bring up the change. There has to be, the governments or the policymakers have to understand that they have to give the youths, their voice, and they have to listen, and not just, just us speaking and them not listening isn't going to change the way, things are going on. And if they really consider this crisis seriously, I feel and I believe that, the most important thing is listening to all the voices, whether it's, for the from the youth perspective, whether it's from the indigenous communities or whether it's from the different people, ones those who are most impacted, like, thinking about the poor people on the streets as well, having representations of, those kind of people, because at the very end, they are going to be the one, telling their struggles, a wealthy person or a minister living out there doesn't know how that person, lives throughout, how that person stays, like, living in the polluted air in Delhi, breathing that air every single day. I don't know how it is like for them, but, it is important. They are the ones only who can tell us, how it feels to them, and what they want to change. And at the very same time, I feel like giving every a person's opinion and importance is something I feel like that could bring up a change. And at the very end, it is a world we all have to share. We all are sharing this. So we all have to come together, and, we have to set common goals in terms of what we really want. And we have to keep aside, the development, the misunderstood, development that we all are considering today. And just think about, if we can take it a little slow and think about, how to survive firstly, and, just learn how to respect the environment around us. And then, taking things forward could be, the ideal for me, I guess. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ridhima. Here again, we see a new perspective being brought forward. Ridhima, you have spoken about activism. You also touched upon the topic of students staying away from schools, and what the society requires. Uh, Here, like I will not put forward my viewpoint, but yes, you are right. What I would like to say is we have to be very careful and cautious that if a particular section of society is getting involved in a certain response, that response should resonate to all other sections. Otherwise, we will create certain compartments and silos again, where the youth themselves will stay disconnected from each other. So that is why peer to peer transfer, talking to more youth, connecting with more youth is very important. And you also touched upon the policy frameworks. So, where the policies are being framed, how they are reaching out to the sections, that is where we look up to people like you who are going to make a big difference. So, you have access, you have been in the movement, and on behalf of WSTS, I would just like to wish more power to you that you continue the good work. So please stay connected with Ima. We'll get back to you. And now I would invite Arun Krishnamurti as the next speaker who will put forward his viewpoint. Arun, I have been closely following all your work, and you are a Rolex entrepreneur. You started from the International Climate Championship. So it's always a pleasure to welcome you back to TERI. And on this WSDS forum, I welcome you to put forward your viewpoint. Over to you, Arun.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. Vanakkam Namaste. My greetings, salutations to the ambassadors and my fellow panelists and to all those who are watching. I bring to you a very simple story, that of a common man from suburban Chennai in South India. In an urban water body which once was a freshwater source, being dumped with non-degradable trash, construction debris, and to be built upon over a period of time only because of urban expansion. This meant that a habitat got killed, all dependent life forms, including the human form, was affected negatively in one way or the other. Now, the population in this neighborhood had a compulsion because there was non degradable trash that was being generated and there was no waste management solution, which meant the waste had to be dumped somewhere. And then the easiest target was a drying water body simply because the monsoons failed. When the monsoons failed, when the water body dries up, it is nothing but a large public land where one can use it for multiple purpose. But then when the rains happen, and when the rains happen in the form of a new normal, not like how it used to in the past, there is excess water, a lot of rain in a very short time. And the water body which was drying up, which is now being dumped with garbage and debris, has no space to store this water, which means there is inundation, flooding, loss of life, damage to property, and more. Climate change is a far fetched topic in ground reality for many individuals like me, simply because climate change or climate crisis and its communication is where I see the flaw to be. Simply because we are not speaking the language or the tone or the subject in a manner in which the common man and woman would understand the climate crisis. The larger crisis within climate change for me, more than everything else that everybody has pointed out, is the gap in communication. Why are we not able to reach out to the last or the first citizen in the grassroots? Even today, as we speak, garbage that's being generated, being burnt, or consumption patterns that are changing, cultural practices which once definitely put in sustainable life form livelihoods are now being wiped out. All of this is only increasing the climate risk, and it's in no way reducing it. And we have a global pattern, and we have one form of how all of us have to live. The amount of garbage we generate, or the use and throw practice, or forgetting cultural grounded roots, which once definitely prescribed better sustainable means. And this is where we have a larger role in communicating climate change effectively in a manner where it is not boring, in a manner where it doesn't look like a greenwash, in a manner where logic and science can be embedded with cultural knowledge to ensure that we have the larger population involved in the solution and not the problem. That's exactly where we are focusing on freshwater habitats, lakes and ponds of India. Take India as a country, for example, with acute water shortages in many parts of the country, not just in the recent past, but over several years. But cultural and local practices meant that there were localized solutions ranging from the step wells of Western India to the temple tanks of South India to the large agrarian lakes that were set up across this country based on need. And that actually brought in a culture, a discipline to live in harmony with nature. Over a period of time, modern sophistication and more has meant that there is a disconnect between the human and the planet. And we've gone one step further. There is a disconnect between the human and the being, himself or herself. And this is where the problem lies. We need to get the larger population to explore, experience, thereby evolve into the human being once again. We've just become walking, talking consumers, which is adding to the climate crisis, and it is no way slowing the process. And my humble request to all those who are watching, look at individual solutions, and when many individuals bring onto the table a solution, there would definitely be a global change. Let's not look for or wait for a global solution which would penetrate to the last mile. Probably from the first mile or the 0 mile, we'll have to start for us to reach our destination, which is justice to all life forms, which is a planet that focuses on sustainability, which is simply harmonious coexistence with all life forms. I thank you all for patiently listening, and I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Look forward to volunteering with all of you, not just for India's environment, for the globe over, from local platforms. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Arun. That was really enlightening. And what you spoke about the water connection and how the depleting resource is moving further down, it's really a sad situation. And I will not put forward my point here, but I would like to go on with the session. And what I would say is. That we will bring some questions to all our eminent speakers. Huh? So, just my first question to all of you here for this session, Vanessa, Laura, Ridhima, Pandey. You have all spoken about solutions and you have spoken about how we can make a change. How do you think that science can counter skepticism? And how do we use science as a tool for creating more understanding about climate change? And what is the role of schools and educational institutes in this purpose? Any one of you could answer that.
I would like to address the importance of clear and accessible information based on scientific insights, because it's for some people really hard to find simple information about what is really needed to get to a sustainable world. And another important aspect, in my opinion, is how we can use scientific insights from scientists to counter contradicting views and reluctancy to follow climate measures. So, for example, the Climate Authority is a solution, like it is done in the United Kingdom, the Committee on Climate Change, the CCC. So the Climate Authority, which is an independent organization with scientists from different disciplines, will give solicited and unsolicited advice to governments about its climate policy. And when the government uses the advices from the Climate Authority, citizens will be more likely to follow the measures because the advices are science-based. And that's also what we have seen in the Corona crisis, that when decisions from governments are more science-based, citizens are more likely to follow those decisions. So I think it's really important to use science, make it easy for citizens and accessible. And on the other hand, use science to also give citizens the feeling that, the measures are really needed, that are being taken are really needed.
Thank you so much. We'll just connect with the audience on this point a little later. Anybody would like to put forward some best practices that exist on knowledge sharing? So this is a question that I open up to all our speakers. And how do we best showcase innovative products that support climate justice? Over to you, please.
I think I can come in to talk about the question about climate education. I think it's also one of the ways of knowledge with different people. And with the rise of movement, we've been able to reach a number of schools, and one of the things that I've noticed is that when you ask a child or a student what climate change is, they will tell you that it's the average change in weather conditions over a long period of time. So that's what we've all known. I can see Redeemer agreeing to that. Even me myself, that is the definition that I knew. So for many students, that is what climate change is. But having climate change, education, I think it really opens our minds to what the climate crisis really is, but not just the climate crisis, but what we can do as young people, what students can do, right now for the planet. Because you find where schools where students will ask you questions, what can I do? After talking to them, they ask, what can I do? So I think that it's really important to have climate education in schools, because in the end, these are tomorrow's scientists, tomorrow's leaders, and tomorrow's campaigners, and they need to have as much information as possible when it comes to environmental protection.
That's Thank you to you, Ritima, for taking this up. With this, because time is less and we have to cover a few other important activities related to the session, I would like to extend a very, very warm thank you to Vanessa, Laura, Ritima, and Arun. And we move on. And with this, I hand over the session to my colleague Taru and Mr. Jay Gaurav from GIZ. Thank you so much, all of you, for your kind presence.
Thank you, Livleen. That was a wonderful session, and I would like to congratulate all the young leaders here who presented their perspectives, and I'm sure they will turn out to be wonderful, wonderful leaders as time moves forward. As Livleen pointed out, we'd like to move on with the session, and I would now like to invite Mr. Jayakumar Gaurav, Senior Technical Advisor, Climate Change, UIC India. Mr. Gaurav, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kartikey, and thank you everyone for your very valuable inputs. It was really great to hear the young leaders share their views. So this activity we are doing as part of the SPIPA project, Strategic Partnership for Implementation of Paris Agreement. And I'll just share my screen so we can talk more about work. So as part of the SPIPA project, in partnership with TERI, CEW, and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change being the nodal ministry for the SPIPA project, we have been organizing Youth Climate Conclave for the past 3 editions. It started in 2019 with a set of competitions, and now we are already, we have just finished the 3rd edition. And I take this great opportunity to announce the winners of the different competitions that were organized as part of the YCC 3rd edition. So we had the photography competition, in which there were 2 categories. Category A included students in the age group of 10 to 18 years, and category B included students from 19 to 25 years age category, youth. And the first winner in category A is Akshat Singh from Amity International School, Ghaziabad, Uttar Pradesh. The second winner is Bhanvi Sharma from Faith Academy, New Delhi. And the third winner is Disha Jha, Adarsh Public School, New Delhi. I congratulate all of them, and very beautiful pictures, as you can see on the screen. They have clicked. It's as good as a professional nature photographer. Similarly, moving on to category B, the first winner is Harsh Patel from National Institute of Fashion and Technology, Jodhpur, Rajasthan. This is like an old items repair shop that he has clicked the picture, and it's really beautiful. It's showing sustainability in a way that We should try and use our products, get them repaired, refurbished, rather than use and throw kind of approach. Then the second winner is Nancy Kumari from Mahatma Gandhi Kashi Vidyapeeth, Varanasi, Uttar Pradesh. It's a bird in its nest. And the third winner is Yatish Rao Sarvade from Kandula Srinivas Reddy Memorial College, KSRM College, Kadapa, Andhra Pradesh. So this is also a nice photograph with amazing colors that you can see on the screen. Moving on, we had the blog competition. Of course, you can't read them, but we plan to publish all the winning blogs and some other selected blogs in the form of a compendium. The blogs that were published that we received in the YCC first and second edition, they're already available online in the form of a compendium. So in category A, 10 to 18 years of age, the winner, first prize winner is Dev Garg from MIT International School, Saket, New Delhi. And second winner is Itishri Padhan, OAV Jarubai Ulunda, Sonepur, Odisha. And the third winner is Lakshay Gupta, Adarsh Public School, Delhi. In category B, we have Anandi Sen as the first prize winner, from Kamala Nehru College, University of Delhi, New Delhi. And Akriti Ahuja from TERI School of Advanced Studies, New Delhi, as the second prize winner. And Harshita Kanodia from Kirodimal College, University of Delhi, as the third prize winner. The topics, as you can see, were mostly sustainable lifestyle, a need of the hour, local action for global impact, and role of youth for climate action. I think role of youth for climate action was the most right upon, or the topic in which we got most entries. Then moving on, we had the short video competition. We are not going to play the videos, but these are available online. You can watch them. They're very interesting videos. The first winner is Aksha Jareth. He's from Chaitraka International School, Chandigarh. Chitkara International School, Chandigarh. And the second winner is Minakshi V. Nayyar from Chinmay Vidyalaya, Vaduthala, Kochi, Kerala. And the third winner is Riddhi from Lady Irwin College, University of Delhi. So here we didn't have these two age category differentiations. It's just a common competition for all youth. We also organized a debate competition. It was an online debate competition as part of the Youth Climate Conclave on 10th and 11th February. So there were two teams and they were allocated a topic, and the teams had prepared for and against the topic. So in category A, in the 10 to 18 year age category, Miss Tanishk Punia from Air Force School, New Delhi, was in the winning group, first prize winner. Mr. Jenyanam Bordoloi, Faculty Higher Secondary School, Guwahati, was the second, and Miss Gauri Umesh from National Academy for Learning, Bangalore, was the third team member. And in category B, the winning team members were Mr. Shwetanshu Kumar Shahu from Vellore Institute of Technology, Vijayawada, Miss Lakshyasika Pawar, University of Delhi, and Miss Anchal Garg from Anchal Gautam, from University College of Chemical Technology, New Delhi. So they were very interesting debate competitions. You can watch the online recording of these debate competitions on TERI YouTube channel as well. So that's it about the winners. And as part of the Youth Climate Conclave, the third edition, a youth pledge was also prepared, which will be presented by some selected youth representatives today. So thank you for your patient listening. And again, congratulations to all the winners. I encourage everyone to go and watch their photographs, short videos, and read the blogs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations to all the winners. I would now like to invite student representatives of the Youth Climate Conclave, Ms. Komal Tiwari, KIT University, Bhubaneswar, Odisha, and Mr. Darsh Vatsa, Delhi Public School, Sonipat, Haryana, for the pledge.
Before reading out the pledge, I'd like to thank the TERI organization for providing us with this esteemed opportunity of reading out the Youth Pledge, which marks the successful conclusion of the Youth Climate Conclave 2022. We, the youth of today and promise of tomorrow, pledge our commitment towards addressing the problem of climate change. We will need a more sustainable lifestyle, but also want to contribute to innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. We will work for immediate and long-term changes, focus on positive actions to make a difference in the world around us, stride forward with confidence, zeal, and purpose in life. We, the youth of today and promise of tomorrow, pledge to work to cut down on emissions, restore and replenish resources by managing waste by adopting integrated waste management practices, conserving energy and water in our surroundings, maintain the green cover, limit our daily consumption. We, the youth of today and promise of tomorrow, pledge to initiate practices that influence decisions towards net zero commitment. We commit to leave no one behind and promise to nurture indigenous knowledge and respect intergenerational dialogues around climate justice.
We, the youth of today and promise of tomorrow, stand before you as ambassadors of planet Earth, pledged to develop, innovative and emerging technologies. We commit to transform into a united and responsible workforce, making every act count to address climate change. We, the youth of today and promise of tomorrow, pledge to ensure that our friends and family will endeavor to pursue sustainable lifestyles, aspiring to create a world filled with hope and empathy. We, the youth of today and promise of tomorrow, will connect the past with the future to safeguard traditional knowledge. We pledge to pause and resolve conflicts and champion the cause of climate change. We will work as a resilient global workforce, striving for justice, equity, and growth for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Darsh. Thank you, Komal. That was very inspiring. It was wonderful to watch you speak. I would now like to invite Ms. Taru Mehta, Fellow at the Energy and Resources Institute, and she will announce the Green Olympiad winners. Taru, the floor is yours.
I hope my screen is visible.
Perfectly.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Taru Mehta, and I will be presenting about Green Olympiad, India's premier examination on environment and sustainable development. Today is also an occasion where I announce global and country awards for this year's edition, and we are thankful to all our partners and sponsors for generously supporting the Students' Award. Green Olympiad is TERI's flagship program for school students since 1999. The goal is to inspire school fraternity to mainstream various aspects of environment and sustainable development within their academics. It caters to students of grades 4th to 12th in 4 difficulty levels. The program features under SDG 4 and particularly Target 7, which states ensure all learners acquire knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, including, among others, the socio-environment and cultural dimensions. Green Olympiad in India is endorsed by UNESCO, Central Board of Secondary Education, Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan, Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, State Council of Educational Research and Training, and this year, National Skills Development Corporation has also been added. In its 22nd edition, the program introduced another theme, which is Green Skills. This year, we reached out to approximately 50,000 students in 17 countries, including India. Coming to the awards section now, this year we have 18 global winners who are spread across 2 themes and 4 difficulty levels. And their names are Agrath Chakrabarti, Delhi Public School, Ahmedabad; S. Patricia Jain, Al Yasmin International School, Riyadh; Chaudhry Yuvansh, Pragati Central School, Hyderabad; Anushka Sharma, Sardar Patel Vidyalaya, New Delhi; Devik, Amity International School, Noida; Shreyanshu Ghosh, Delhi Public School, Bokaro; Naina Ranjit, Delhi Private School, Sharjah; Anya Jaiman, Cambridge School, Ghaziabad; Pratna Anand Jyoti, New Horizon Gurukul, Bangalore; Sanidhya Das, Presidency School, Bangalore; Faisal Nurul Aman Sheikh, Abu Dhabi Indian School, Abu Dhabi; Anishka Ghosh, Bhavans Gangbox Kanoria Vidya Mandir, Kolkata; Mahroof Ahmed Khan, DAV Public School, Bhubaneswar; Samarjit Das, Delhi Public School, Guwahati, Assam; Aditya Arun Kartha, Smart Indian School, Farwania, Kuwait; Gautam S., DAV Boys Senior Secondary School, Chennai; Fazil Al Haq AM, GEMS Arun Indian School, Dubai; and Shrevani Raju Dhawane, School of Scholars, Amravati. These are our global winners who are spread across two themes and 4 difficulty levels and represent all 17 countries. There are other 71 country winners spread across these countries and 2 themes and 4 difficulty levels. Since the numbers are huge and there is paucity of time, I'm not going to announce their names one by one, but all these names and categories of winners are available on WSDS website and even on Green Olympiad website. Once again, I would congratulate all the winners and thank all our partners for contributing in the success of these students. And I hope that all the students who are attending the session today participate in Green Olympiad in much larger numbers in 2022 cycle. So all the best and thank you once again. Over to you, Kartik.
Thank you, Taru. And with this, we come to the end of the session. I would like to thank all the ambassadors and all the youth leaders. I was very impressed by the perspectives that they have and they hold, and I wish I was as smart as they are when I was young. Thank you very much from here at TERI and the WSDS Secretariat. Have a great day.